So tell me about your family dynamic.
My family dynamic is my wife, my son, and I, and that's Thanksgiving, Christmas, spring break, and summer of every year. The rest of the year, my son lives with his dad and his stepmom.
My dad and my mom got divorced, and my dad moved away, and I lived with my mom for like a year and a half. And then pretty much my dad asked for custody, and my mom pretty much said, okay, take him.
Kids are awful, and kids will make fun of people for anything that they can get a hold of. Um, Kids will pick on you if you have only one parent. Um, because they'll be like, oh, well, your mom didn't love you, so she left, haha, or something like that. Okay.
How would you describe the impact your parent had on your education?
Well,
as a child, education was not necessarily a priority item for any of my parents or for my father tried to go to college and he ended up having to work because he could not support the family and go to college at the same time. So he wanted to go to college, but he did not enforce it, that it was important for us all to do it. Nor did we have the financial ability to go to college. So, yeah, no, I didn't end up going to college.
Well, in the beginning, it was more my dad who was in charge of my education. He taught me all the basics and stuff, reading, writing, arithmetic. And then, but by the time I lived with just my mom, I pretty much was able to take care of myself. They didn't help me with homework like for a while.
Eventually, I was able to turn it around. My dad got me involved in the GATE program. He got me signed up for that and really pushed my academic career.
Education was always a priority for both of my parents, and so I had a lot of support from both of them, just not simultaneously.
And what do you mean by that, not simultaneously?
Well, I wouldn't be sitting there and have both my parents helping me learn how to read or helping me with my math problems, but I would have one at a time, depending on who had custody of me at that moment. So I had equal support from both, just not in one household, I would say, I guess.
Because if one parent is gone for an indeterminate amount of time, you're kind of like on your own. So it's like, you can't get right to school functions or, you have no one to sign permission slips or, on the odd occasion, like if you have to have help with their homework or something, you have nobody to help you with that. It's basically like you're on your own.
It's priority one for me that all my kids go to college. I've spent a lot of time enforcing their discipline as far as getting their homework done and everything like that, and also scoring well on tests that are related to college entry. And so far, I've had success with my son. He's been entertained by several colleges, including University of Chicago. So he's doing quite well. His PSAT scores were in the 98th percentile. And there are plans in place right now, including the financial backing to make sure that he can go to any college he wants to. And I would do anything, including taking loans, to make sure he gets that education.
The teachers didn't really knew I was going through that. I'd always bring that up as like an excuse, like, oh hey, my parents just split up. I need another week on this essay. But with my friends, it didn't really matter because like pretty much all our parents have split up. It seems like a really big trend these days.
There was a lot of bias with the teacher. She was very rude. She didn't want to communicate with me. She basically treated me as if I was a pariah. Anytime I would call and ask about my son or email her, it would take weeks for responses. She wanted nothing to do with me being a part of my son's life.
When they found out about my family, teachers, I had a few that learned about my parents separating, and they kind of had the assumption on me that I was coming from a broken home. But it wasn't really the case, because my stepmom actually was a mother figure, and she treated me like a son. So it was kind of a misassumption and a sort of a negative thinking on their part. As far as friends, I was actually able to relate to a lot of friends, because a lot of them came from broken up families where their parents were divorced. So my friends didn't really judge me on it. They were able to relate to me pretty easily, and I was able to relate back to them.
Probably the most that could be said would be that since my parents were always very combative with each other, if one parent supported an activity more than the other, then the other would want to support it less.
My son is a stellar student. He's an advanced reader. He loves school. He loves his friends at school. He loves going to school. He loves his teachers. I didn't tell him about my issue that I had with his teacher last year. I did not want him to know about that. That wasn't his business. I don't see my son having any disadvantages right now.
Does he do well in school?
He does amazing in school. He is all honors.
How do you believe that they kind of perceive what's going on for you being away from home but trying to support them?
Well, when it comes to my son, my oldest son, it has no effect whatsoever, because he's used to the fact that I've been gone. I've been gone probably most of my career, except for the last 5 years. So, as growing up as a child, we were on the road when he was 1 year old. So, for 5 years, he was on the road with us. So he's kind of used to me being gone. I worked a lot of hours over the last several years, and so there's no effect whatsoever on my son.
I think what made me successful was my dad, and he's the one that pushed me. So if my parents were still together, I still obviously would have been with my dad, and he's the one that was the driving force behind me succeeding in school.
My mom always encouraged me to get good grades, mostly so that I'd be able to go to college, get a good education, not have to live the struggle the way that we did when I was a kid. So there was a lot of I guess pressure to do well in school, even though there was no way for her to keep up the pressure since she was always gone working. That kind of thing.
And so she wanted to afford my sister and I every possible opportunity that she never had as a child. So we were constantly kept busy with piano lessons and ballet lessons and singing lessons and piano lessons and all kinds of educational supplemental activities to ensure our well-roundedness.
I graduated high school despite those disadvantages, and I am in community college. Take from that what you will.
Yeah, there was always the looming thought of, you don't want to be here when you turn 30 or when you turn 40. You don't want to be here.
This is Business Alan. If you are looking for a house, if you're sick and tired of paying rent to some landlord, look me up. I'll get you there.